when I was asked to take on some leadership responsibilities here in the club, one of the things that rings for me is that, an amateur radio club with a repeater system, the better your repeater system, the better your coverage, the more services that you offer through your repeater system brings more value to the club. Understanding when I joined the club that our 2-meter repeater system linked to our 70 centimeter repeater system was slightly compromised, not criticizing anything, but on a hilltop in Vienna with higher hills around it isn't an ideal location, but it's been working well. Some people that have recently relocated out to further areas than our 2-meter repeater covers were also having a hard time linking to our 70 centimeter machine. And then we've also been suffering some issues linking the 2 repeaters, and it hasn't been consistent. So recently I became friends with, well, I guess friends, right? We're friends, Andrew, who a recent club member, dues paying now, but doesn't come to many meetings because he's as busy as many of us are, works at a building in Tyson's Corner where he had permission from the building management, his management, to install a personal DMR repeater. And it has a huge coverage area. And I think anybody in the region that uses DMR on their 5-watt handhelds or their mobiles has programmed in the N9KET repeater on Tyson's Corner. And it is just a fantastic repeater system. It covers a very large area with just one antenna right now. That same rooftop has been offered for our repeater antenna and entire repeater system to be relocated to. So this was put out on the website and advertised, and it's changed twice in the last 24 hours. My apologies, but that's the way things go. Right before the meeting tonight, the cost associated jumped just a little tiny bit, and I can explain that when we get to that point. So basically, we have requested an official T-Mark reallocation, a new address, a new GPS location for our antenna system. You'll see here that the current location is at the American Legion Diagonal Post 180. Many of us have been there either to work on the antenna or to gather for races or things. And it covers Vienna quite well. It covers a little bit outside of Vienna too. Proposed location is on top of the Capital One building, right at the intersection of 267 and 495. I go past there several times a week, and it's a big building. The increase in height is 361 feet, and that alone it's just a huge increase in coverage area. The repeater itself will become a regional repeater as opposed to a local repeater, probably opening the door for more MCOM use for local areas and races use. Certainly going to potentially draw in more members from the region, could potentially increase membership, and tie it in with other relationships that we have to cover trades and things. Our people on the other side of the Tyson's Hill will no longer need to rely on our remote voter system that we share space with the NV4 FMA site at the 7799 building in Tyson's Corner, which is a great, their repeater systems are great and regional as well. I think that the move will benefit the club in so many ways. There is a cost associated, so I don't want to reveal too much information, but Andrew and another friend of his have spent quite a bit of time and invested quite a bit of personal money to get professionally installed non-penetrating roof mounts, grounding system, cable conduit, cable runs, all done professionally by commercial installers, and that's a requirement of the building there. So what they asked of us, well, first of all, thank you, Andrew, for making the offer. I think it's an exciting move. And the attachment that's on the document, I'm sorry, it's blurry. This invoice is now outdated. So what happened today was Andrew got permission to do the rooftop professional installation to support our repeater and use the same day to move our repeater hardware to the new location as Saturday, June 5th. Part of that information today was that the original antenna, I believe, was 24 feet in length, and Fairfax County enforces new building code. Fairfax County really enforces sight lines of antennas and things. They're looking to beautify the skyline in the Tyson's Corner area and other ways. So a 24-foot antenna became quickly unacceptable. So we had to downsize to a slightly shorter antenna, but unfortunately the cost for that antenna went up by $150 on our end. So the total cost investment for the club to support this move would be one half of the invoice. The other half is covered by Andrew personally. And that total is $2,208.50. So I guess we're really voting on the expenditure. I can't imagine. I mean, maybe some people have an argument about moving the repeater, but I only see it as a gain for repeater usage. Some other things, we will no longer need the remote voter system at Tyson's. The link between the 70 centimeter machine at Fair Oaks Hospital to the American Legion Hall in Vienna will no longer be required. Our plan, assuming this will be approved, is to disable those ports, the linking ports and the voter ports on the controller, but leave everything in the cage just in case something happens, in the short term where we need to go back. Something else of note, some people Some people expressed some concern about abandoning the Legion Hall. We have no intention of abandoning. We are just simply resorting how we use that property in that agreement. The 64-foot mast and the antenna and the feed line will all remain there. And I'm going to be asking for the club to come up with some creative ideas on how we can reuse that space. So, some quick ideas would include some digital things. Most of my ideas would include the use of internet to support whatever it is. And we don't currently have internet there. So we'll have to figure out, maybe we could purchase a small town covered DMR just for club use. Anybody has any ideas, we'll be looking for ideas on how to continue our relationship at the hall. Other concerns were loss of control of the coordinated frequency pair and loss of ownership or control of the hardware itself. We will not be losing any of that. Coordinated pair remains right now in Pete's name as the trustee, and I'm listed for the 70 centimeter. Pete and I have a verbal agreement that we're going to swap the two, and that he'll take on the responsibility of 70 centimeter, and I'll take on the responsibility of the 2 meter. And the only real potential downside is, in my mind anyway, is access, right? So we have to respect the rules and regs of the Capital One management and the Capital One rooftop management team, infrastructure team. And what's going to be required is I, as the club representative for the repeater, will have to request through Andrew a date and a time to make access. And Andrew will have to escort me, and someone will have to escort the two of us to go up to the penthouse and do our work. Andrew assures me that there might be a small delay, like in a few hours or possibly a day, depending. But I trust Andrew that if something really bad goes wrong, that we could probably get access in a reasonable amount of time. And then the only other real restriction about access. So right now at the American Legion Hall, we can show up anytime we want unannounced, and we can work on our be the case. It won't be just come and go as we please, but I trust in my multiple conversations with Andrew that every best effort will be made to accommodate whatever is needed. And then other concerns I've heard were, okay, this is great, a 326 or 361 foot increase in any antenna I think anybody would like. What happens if Andrew leaves the company, or either on good terms or bad terms, or what's the likelihood that they're going to flip their switch and say we don't want to do this anymore? I think that neither one of those are a big concern. Sure, they are a concern, but not an overweighing concern. One of the reasons I believe Capital One agreed to this additional repeater being added to the one that's there now is our MCOM relationship with Fairfax County. So this frequency pair is listed as a backup frequency on the Fairfax County Emergency Management and ARES relationship. So this repeater could be turned on and used or taken over by, or controlled by, or run a net by ARES, and potentially CERT if there's a deployment for either one of those groups. And back up just a little bit here, because there are other regional coordinated pairs similar to ours that at our current antenna location wouldn't have a chance of interfering. Moving our antenna to this superior location could potentially interfere. And if there's late summer ducting, like we've all experienced on our repeater, New Jersey, South Carolina, coastal stations, enabling this tone, which was strongly suggested by TMARC to get the approval of the recoordination, we will be reprogramming the repeater to use this tone here. So anybody that doesn't know how to do that on their mobile machines or their handy talkies, all you need to do is put an email out on the general reflector, and I'm sure one of 50 of us will be happy to walk you through how to enable a PL tone properly on your system. So does anybody have Saturday, June 5th. And does anybody have any questions or concerns beyond what I've discussed?
Can I clarify one or two things?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
As far as access, I know access is going to be the major concern. If it's an emergent issue, getting access within 24 hours shouldn't be an issue. If it's just regular maintenance, I would say a week is probably more realistic, and it's less about getting permissions under normal conditions. It's less about getting permissions. It's more about just finding somebody who can escort and who has time available to do the escort. Right now during COVID, we're getting access was a little more difficult because of all the normal safety things that are going on.
Yeah, and just for a different level of concern, Andrew was telling me today and a little bit yesterday that they'll be providing the PPE that they expect to be worn in their facility for us to wear while we're there, which I thought was very nice.
Brendan, I got one question here through the chat.
Okay.
Where is repeater in relation to the 91 repeater at Tyson's, and are there any issues between the two repeaters?
There will be no issues between the two repeaters. And as far as location, if you are traveling the toll road toward 495 and you're going to head south on 495, at the very top of that onto 495, look to your left, look up, you will see where our repeater will be housed. Continue down 495 to right before the Tyson's Corner infrastructure starts on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, there's a building. I believe the address is 7799. It's right next to Marshall High School. It actually overlooks the Marshall High School football field, and it's on the rooftop where the 911 infrastructure sits, as well as some other stuff.
Got another question from Al here. Says, does the addition of the new tone need to be communicated to various repeater directories at sea?
Yes, we are on top of that. There will be an advertising blitz of sorts starting shortly if this is. We're also going to put a voice recording on the 2 meter and the 70 centimeter machine announcing the new tone for the 2 meter machine.
There's a few questions about actual access. Like I said, you guys kind of hit on it a little bit about Andrew possibly losing access. Kevin was saying that the limited access, there was another club who had a major conflict with the person who had access to the repeater. It took a year to get the repeater removed from the site. I guess it's kind of a statement of sorts, but there is a question there. I think you guys kind of answered it, but maybe you can just talk a little bit more about that if possible.
Andrew, do you have anything to add? Because what you and I have talked about, I think I've already disclosed to everyone, and I trust that it's not an issue right now. And, I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer that question. I'm not overly concerned about it.
I got permission to put for the sake of knowledge for everyone, I got permission to put up the DMR repeater up there, despite the fact that the Capital One has declined requests by multiple other entities. The cell phone commercial, I think it's the tallest. It's currently the tallest building in Tyson's Corner, and I think the third tallest building in the state. It's prime real estate, and the company decided early on that they didn't want it to become an RF farm. Despite that, I got permission to do it, one in part because I'm an employee there. I'm actually in senior leadership, so I run a good portion of our infrastructure. So that was one. And then the second one is Capital One feels very strongly about contributing to the community. And so I of course, just explained a bit about amateur radio and our role for emergency preparedness and some of the activities that we do. So it was the combination of those two things that got the green light to do it. I have currently no plans to leave Capital One, but if it were to occur, and as long as I leave on good terms, which I would expect to do, I think I've established strong enough relationships that we would be able to leave the repeaters up there. Our access might become a little more challenging. It'll probably take a little longer to coordinate because I'll be, calling for favors as opposed to just badging in. But other than that, I don't expect any problems.
Okay, I think that's all fair. Next question we have, the 70 centimeter repeater. Brendan, this is probably something you can speak to more. Is that going to stay at Fair Oaks, and why would we not be able to retain link capability, or would we be able to retain link capability?
Sure. So we have no plans to move anything from the hospital. We will work with the club to come up with ideas on how to how to better utilize that space. The hospital, like Capital One, maybe the hospital more so, is very interested in keeping a relationship with both Aries, Races, and us. They love the fact that we're there, and they certainly don't mind it. Why wouldn't we link them anymore? The 2 meter repeater in its new location is going to have such a large swath of coverage that it's kind of going to render useless, or not needed. Quite honestly, there's one person in the club that currently attempts to use the 70 centimeter machine, maybe two, that regularly attempt to use it, and on Mondays, and we've been having some problems with the links. The 2 meter machine is going to cover all of that area. Plus, we are limited to the amount of antennas that we could put on the rooftop at Capital One, the amount of cable runs that can be made, and a linking antenna at this point in our agreement isn't part of the deal. Was that answer the concern?
I would believe that makes sense. Lee may want to respond.
We have no plans to get rid of the 70 centimeter infrastructure. It still will cover the area that it covers and can be used. I monitor both repeaters on a daily basis all day long, and I call out on the 70 centimeter shooter 4, 5, 6 times a day, and it's been months since I've heard any activity on it.
Okay. I think that's Lee can type something up if need be, because we do have a few more questions to get through here. We got one, any change in backup power to the repeater from what we currently have? Is it better, worse, the same?
We are going to utilize our exact same hardware configuration with battery backup on the new location. Nothing will change.
The space is environmentally controlled. I don't know if the existing.
Yeah, we're in a storage room inside a secure building. So yeah, penthouse is probably nicer than the storage room that our repeater has been in for years. Anybody else?
Yeah, there's a few more questions I got here, so I'm just going to keep going through them. Is roof rent an issue? Would there be a written agreement between VWS and Capital One?
So there is no rent. We're just simply helping cover the cost, 50% of the cost of the professional installation of the hardware to support our repeater. Everything else has been covered by Andrew and another gentleman. What was the second part?
Is there a written agreement?
We do not
between VWS and Capital One.
We do not have a written agreement, and I don't anticipate that we will or need a written agreement.
All right, next up, you say the new site will have great coverage. Is that true for the South County area near Woodbridge or Lorton?
Andrew, I'm going to default to you. How does that DMR repeater do in those locations?
Yeah, so I was answering some questions in the chat. So right now, the DMR repeater, it's 70 centimeters. So obviously, then VHF, it's also narrowband digital, which will propagate different than wideband analog. And we're running 100 watts at the transmitter, which is getting about somewhere between 65 and 70 watts, we think, to the antenna after loss. To the northwest, I was out in West Virginia this past week and was hitting it from my car with 10 watts at the intersection of Route 81 and 70. I've regularly been able to hit it up to the northeast, just south of the Baltimore Beltway. And I drove down to Richmond. I did drive down to Richmond with some frequency. And when I did, I would frequently, it would drop out right around Quantico. You start the hilltop, and so you can get a couple more miles that way. The DMR repeater does have a few satellite receivers, but one's in Herndon and one is in Alexandria currently. But the main site is the one that's really doing most of the coverage.
So
okay.
Lorton, Woodbridge specifically, I can only imagine that it's better than what happens now with our current repeater.
Likely, I mean, having worked with repeaters for a number of years, the challenge will become that you're going to be able to hear the repeater, but you're not going to be able to get back into it. And we're going to start talking about satellite receivers.
So I want to cover one question. I just want to speak it, and there is an answer that Andrew you provided. So I'm just going to read the question and the answer just to be sure everybody gets it. Does the new building have emergency power? Response says the building does, but we're not wired to it. It was going to cost me $10K. Opted to use batteries instead. Just wanted to make sure I addressed that out loud. All right. The next question I got is, will we be able to grow capability to include DMR or D-Star or digital modes?
Yes. The reason we're not doing that right now is because there's been quite a bit of discussion about that. And we've decided to just stay analog for now. And I don't see why we can't change the mode in which we operate. Just so everybody knows, we've been in discussion about this for some time now, and it's started to come together very nicely, very quickly. The reason we opted to not do, we talked about pricing, we talked about product, we talked about availability, talked about coverage of a hybrid mode DMR analog repeater. And there are more disadvantages to that configuration than there are advantages to the greater user community. When you enable the hybrid mode, the analog portion, you lose the ability to link the DMR section to the C bridge or use the internet connectivity aspect of that, which makes it a local repeater. And the quick discussion was, if we can just move the analog repeater now, we can then grow into something else. So for now, it will remain a discussion, and I'd love to keep hearing everybody's ideas. And the more ideas I hear from more people, then it becomes more doable. There would be a larger cost associated with switching repeater hardware. And there are more people that have analog machines right now, handy talkies and car and DMR is hugely. I just don't have, there are Steve Schmidt's repeater system in the region is completely saturating this area. I just don't think it's cost effective for us to spend money on something that already exists. And if we wanted to, Andrew has made this offer already, we could probably come up with a VWS talk group to add to his repeater system, and an Aries talk group to add to that repeater system. And, we could just tune into that and use that.
For clarity's sake, you can consider Steve and my repeater one and the same.
Fair enough.
We manage them all together, and they're using the same C bridge, so they're effectively just one larger system.
Right, and that's the Northern Virginia DMR stuff.
The proposal says 145,685. I guess that, and the current repeater is 146,685. I'm just guessing that's probably a typo.
That would be a typo.
Okay, that seems reasonable. Question here about how do other repeaters get their sites? Does NVFMA have leases contracts with the sites? The concern is if Capital One management changes or if the corporate is acquired, merges, could they just rip out the hardware?
So how do other people get their rooftops? So I'm also on the board. I'm on the board here, and I'm also on the board at NVFMA for Aries purposes because we use their repeater exclusively. So the rooftop agreement over there, they've been there for forever. They've been there longer than the agencies that have occupied some floor space and put paging systems on the roof have been there. That is a rooftop that is allowed to just exist because it is OXCOM, MCOM, emergency use related and tied to Fairfax County Office of Emergency Management and Fairfax County Fire and Rescue, and other board members, including myself at that organization, are volunteer or professional firefighter EMTs and management within Fairfax County Fire Rescue. So that rooftop over there for NVFMA purposes is a donation. They collect no money. In general, rooftop space is very expensive, prohibitively expensive, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a month to get your antenna masts and cabling put onto a commercial rooftop. So we're very lucky to have this offer at our hands. And rooftop in Fairfax County is a tough market, one of the markets in the world.
We got a good question here. The current number is around 2,200, and the question is, that's tied to the invoice presented. What about expenses incurred during movement if, let's say, there's an unforeseen expense during movement?
So the $5,000 that was just approved a few moments ago would probably.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Then question is, who owns the Capital One building, Capital One company, or a building leasing company, JLL?
Andrew? So if Andrew's not here or doesn't respond, I cannot answer that question.
Okay.
He's muted. I've got to unmute him here.
Sorry. Yeah. Right when I went to go talk, my Windows. I couldn't find this window. To the best of my knowledge, the buildings are directly owned by Capital One and managed. Some of the facilities management is by JLL.
Okay. The last question here, and then I think at this point we're going to cut it off. As far as those of us who live way, way out of state, I know we got somebody who's joined tonight from Japan. We have our folks in Ohio and Arizona. I'm going to combine these two questions. Would there be any chance of maybe linking via Echolink? How might we be able to go about that? So on and so forth.
Yes, 100% yes. There is internet available in the penthouse on the rooftop. Andrew has told me with no uncertain terms that we will have access to that internet and it will not cost us a penny. So yes.
All right.
Lots of people
That's good.
do or All-Star or something like that. And that is on the table and it will happen. It's just not going to happen on June 5th when we move the repeater.
Okay.
Stand by.
All right. I have one last question just because I'm just curious to see how you answer this. Why do we need a club repeater?
So you're fired, whoever answered that. We are the Vienna Wireless Society, and we are going to enhance our wireless infrastructure to make our club that much better.
I think that is, yeah. All right, that I think covers all the questions that I've been receiving at the moment. What's that, Brendan?
You need to know who asked that last question.
I'll leave their identity anonymous for the time being.
Fair enough.
All righty. That being the case, I guess, Brendan, if you want to make a motion here.
Horrible. Yes, I motion to
yes,
to have the club approve $208.50 to cover the cost of 50% of the professional installation and move our repeater system to a new location.
Motion is recognized. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All righty.
Third, fourth, and ninth.
Thanks. All righty. That being the case, we've had a fair amount of discussion here. So I'll say this: at this point, similar to what we did previously, I want to open it up to anybody who does have an objection. But if there are no objections, then we will move forward with the motion having passed. So at the moment, take a second to unmute yourself if you so choose to object. And once again, I'll count down from about 5. I think that's a fair amount of time for you to interject. And I will start counting down now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hearing no objections, the motion passes to provide 2208, I believe that's the correct number, for the move of the repeater. Thank you all for participating in that discussion. That was lively. A lot of good questions came up. So, and
It was
thank
a
you,
good
Brendan.
discussion. It was good discussion, but you can probably see we were pretty much in favor. We just wanted to get all the details.
Understandable. So thank you so much, Brendan and Andrew, for presenting that. I think it's going to be a real worthwhile move.
Now that it's passed, I just want to let you all know I was going to remove the Peter anyway.
You're not supposed to reveal that secret.
Let her rip.
All righty. Those are the 2 big items for this evening. Thank you all so much for going through that process. However, the meeting's not over. I'm sounding like the meeting's over. I don't want to give that impression just yet, but thank you for going through that with us. I think we got some really good things accomplished here that really moves the club forward. So, and I think this new repeater move is going to be incredible. I know the 440 repeater has definitely been lackluster for me, but I think now it's going to be really good. And Andrew, I'm going to read your message because that's cool. I'm looking forward to the first net with a new repeater. We have to break a record. New location. I agree. AE4R might want to battle you out there on the 10-meter net versus the 2-meter net, but I agree. Let's see if we can get some records.
My biggest concern right now is since we're going to eventually not link up the UHF repeater, I hope that new location will reach South Riding. That's my only worry.
Well, I'm sure we'll find out pretty quick, so we'll see. But we'll figure something out if it doesn't.